The message that changed everything. Before we begin, go ahead and subscribe if you think you're brave enough to handle what comes next. Some stories don't leave your mind. Some stories stay with you, especially this one. The police found the car first, parked crookedly on the shoulder of an old rural highway just outside of Ashton Grove, a quiet town with more churches and traffic lights. The engine was still running. The driver's door was open. The headlights pointed into a dark line of trees, almost as if they were guiding someone into the woods. On the passenger seat sat a cracked iPhone, screen still glowing, with a final unread message. "I'm here. Where are you?" That phone belonged to 15-year-old Ella Morgan. Ella wasn't the kind of girl who disappeared. She wasn't rebellious. She didn't sneak out, and she wasn't the type to run off with strangers. She grew up in a safe, loving home. Her father was a paramedic, her mother a librarian. She was quiet, soft-spoken, but bright. She loved drawing, indie music, and had a laugh that could break silence like stained glass, which is why everyone was confused when they learned about him. He called himself Caleb. Ella met him on a small art-sharing app, a place where teenagers posted sketches and encouraged each other. He seemed harmless at first, someone who admired her drawings, someone who shared music recommendations, someone who made her feel seen in a way high school hallways never could. They started messaging every day. He told her he was 17, homeschooled, shy, someone who didn't have many real friends. Slowly, the conversations evolved into secrets. Secrets evolved into trust. Trust evolved into something deeper. But no one in her life knew who Caleb was. Not her parents. Not her best friend, Lily. No one. When Ella went missing, the entire town assumed the worst. Because teenagers don't leave cars running on highways unless something has gone terribly wrong. Detective Marlowe was assigned the case. He was known for being calm, analytical, and impossible to intimidate. But something about this one felt different. When parents reported missing teens, there were usually signs, arguments, diary entries, hidden messages. Ella's life had none of those threads to pull. It was like she had walked out of her life and disappeared into thin air. Then the phone was unlocked. The messages between Ella and Caleb told a different story. It wasn't just friendly chatting. Caleb told her that he understood her loneliness. He told her that people around her didn't really know her, that he did, that he saw her, that he needed her. He spoke in gentle words, but each one had an undertow. He convinced her they were connected. Two people who met by fate. Two people meant to escape together. But there was one message the detectives couldn't ignore, sent just 1 hour before Ella disappeared. "I can't wait for you to meet me, but there's something I need to tell you first." Investigators traced the IP address from Caleb's messages. It didn't lead to a 17-year-old boy. It led to a 34-year-old man named Derek Hale, living only 12 miles from Ella's home. But when police arrived at his house, they found something that turned the investigation upside down. Derek was gone. His phone was missing. His car was missing. And in his living room, taped to the wall, was a printed picture of Ella, one she had never posted online. Under it, written in black marker, she said she wanted to be understood. The room went silent, because now, this wasn't a missing person case. It was a race against time. The house in the pines. The search stretched past midnight. Police units swept the wooded backroads with thermal drones, dogs, and floodlights cutting sharp beams through the darkness. The only sound was a low hum of engines and distant cicadas. Everyone was looking for Ella, and everyone was looking for Derek, but the forest gave nothing back. Detective Marlowe didn't believe in coincidences. He studied Derek Hale's background piece by piece. Derek had no violent record, no prior arrests, no history of predatory behavior. At least none that had ever been recorded. He worked quietly repairing HVAC systems for the county. People described him as polite, soft-spoken, the type who wouldn't look you in the eye for too long. Forgettable, invisible, the kind of person who could stand in a grocery line every week and no one would remember his face, which made the photo taped to his living room wall even more disturbing. Ella was smiling in it, a real smile, a private smile, and Detective Marlowe knew instantly. It was taken without her knowledge. The next morning, A break came from an unlikely source. A gas station clerk 6 miles east of Derek's home remembered seeing a car matching his description late the previous evening. The clerk recalled something else, too. There was someone in the passenger seat. Someone small. Someone who didn't look awake. The clerk hadn't reported it because at the time, it seemed like nothing. Now it was everything. Police traced the road leading away from that gas station. It led toward a rural hunting area known as Willow Ridge, mostly forest, scattered abandoned cabins, a place where people could disappear long before anyone realized they were missing. At sunrise, they found a cabin, an old wooden structure half devoured by moss, paint peeling like sunburned skin, windows clouded with age. The front door was cracked open, like whoever entered last didn't need to leave in a hurry. Inside, the air was cold. Still, dust floated through fractured beams of light. A faint smell of pine sap and something metallic lingered. Ella wasn't there, but the signs of her were. A mug with still warm coffee, a blanket folded on the floor, and on the table, a sketchbook. Her sketchbook. Detective Marlowe flipped it open. Page after page showed portraits of faces. But they weren't of her family. They weren't of her classmates. They were all of one person, Derek. Dozens of drawings, dozens of angles, dozens of expressions. And on the final page, in shaky handwriting, "He understands me. He said so." Marlowe closed the book. This wasn't just grooming. This was emotional captivity. Before anyone could process what this meant, a deputy called from outside. They found footprints behind the cabin. 2 sets. One small, one much larger. The tracks led deeper into the woods toward a steep ravine and a narrow footpath. They followed the trail, the forest growing denser, the shadows darker. It felt like walking into a sealed room with no exit. A mile in, they found something else. A campsite, still warm, a fire pit smoldering, 2 metal cups on a stump, a jacket draped over a fallen log. Someone had been there less than an hour earlier. Then something glinted in the grass. Marlowe knelt. It was a silver charm bracelet. Ella's bracelet. She never went anywhere without it. The forest fell into silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that means something is watching. Marlowe's heart tightened. Derek wasn't running. He was waiting. And whoever found him first, Ella's parents, law enforcement, or Ella herself, would determine whether she ever came home. But just as the team prepared to move forward, a radio crackled. A 911 call had just come in. A neighbor reported seeing Ella, not with Derek, but walking alone down a county road 5 miles away, barefoot, shaking, and covered in dirt. What really happened in those woods? When officers reached the county road, the sky was washed in gray morning light. Ella stood near a ditch, her bare feet sliced from gravel, her hair tangled with pine needles, her breathing uneven like she had forgotten how to do it. She didn't run when she saw the police. She didn't cry. She simply stared, eyes wide and hollow, like someone who walked out a nightmare and wasn't sure if she was awake yet. Detective Marlowe approached slowly, lowering his voice to something gentle, something human. "Ella, where's Derek?" Her lips parted. A long, fragile silence stretched between them. He said, "I had to choose," she whispered. Back at the cabin, officers tightened the perimeter. They followed the footprints back toward the ravine trail. From there, the ground sloped sharply downward into a dark creek bed. The water moved slow and thick beneath tangled roots and broken branches. 20 yards upstream, they found him. Derek Hale sat on a rock near the water, hands resting loosely in his lap, as if he were waiting for someone. His shirt was torn. His face was scratched. But his eyes were calm. He didn't try to run. Didn't look surprised. Didn't look afraid. He only lifted his head and exhaled softly when he saw the officers. "You found her," he said. They moved him with caution, but Derek didn't resist. He allowed them to cuff him, allowed them to lead him up the slope, allowed them to place him in the back of the patrol vehicle. The only thing he asked, "Is she okay?" Marlowe didn't answer. At the sheriff's office, Ella was wrapped in blankets and evaluated by medical staff. She had bruises on her arms and a faint mark around her wrist, something like a rope burn, but not deep. She drank water slowly, like each swallow took effort. Her parents hovered nearby, devastated, relieved, angry, and terrified all at once. It wasn't until hours later that Ella finally spoke. She met Derek online in a digital art server 8 months ago. He didn't flirt. He didn't push. He listened. He noticed things people in her real life ignored. He remembered the names of the characters she drew. He remembered the things she wished for late at night, when she believed no one was listening. He said she was seen. She believed him. The meeting wasn't forced. She agreed to it. She even planned it. The cabin in the woods wasn't his place. It was theirs, a secret between them. But once she arrived, she realized Derek didn't want to take her anywhere, didn't want to go out, didn't want anyone else to see her. He just wanted her to stay, in the cabin, with him, forever. And when she tried to leave, he didn't tie her up, he didn't lock her in. He just said one sentence that burrowed into her bones. If you go home, you'll go back to being invisible. She didn't know what scared her more, the idea of staying or the possibility he was right. The final piece came when detectives searched Derek's car and found a notebook in the glove compartment. Inside were letters he had written but never sent. Every page described his fear of losing her, his belief that the world was cruel, his conviction that he was saving her from loneliness, from pain, from everyone else. There was no violence, no forced captivity, only manipulation deep enough to feel like ownership. In court, Derek never argued. He pled guilty to unlawful restraint, kidnapping by deception, and coercive psychological control. He received 8 years. The community expected Ella to hate him. She didn't. She pitted him. Months later, Ella returned to school. She made new friends. She drew again. But her eyes were different now. Older, quieter, like someone who had walked too close to the edge and seen what waited there. People always assume monsters are strangers. But sometimes a monster is a person who says your name softly. The one who knows your favorite songs. The one who listens. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.